Do you want to do something, but fear is keeping you from doing that and holding you back? Well, you definitely have to meet my guest right here on the lifestyle.org podcast. So I'm here with Nedy and Cheryl. It's so great to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
To be here.
You guys do so much. I met you in the last 2 years. We've been at a broadcasters convention. You've come up, we've met, and I just had to let the people get to know who you are, what you're doing. Nedy, tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm Nedy, and I'm an inspirational pop artist, as well as the founder of anti-bullying nonprofit Friends Forever Club. Mm-hmm. And I'm also the co-star on the YouTube series In With the Outcasts, a kids show.
Yeah, very cool. And Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl. I am also a co-star of our kids YouTube series called In With the Outcasts. I'm also on the board of directors with my founder, Nedy, of Friends Forever Club. And I'm also her drummer.
That's the most important thing.
Drummers, and she's my best friend. So
yes, you guys are best friends. I had so much fun meeting you at the convention, and not only because we're drummers, fellow drummers, we're gonna hang out, but because of what you guys are doing. You really are going out there. It's hard. Most people don't understand. You know, they see people on TV, they see people doing YouTube shows, and they're like, what's the big deal? Just set up a camera and do it. But you guys know. Like I know it's a lot more than what people can see. So talk with me a little bit about, I love your show, In With the Outcast, because of what you're trying to do. Talk to us a little bit about that show and what you're hoping to accomplish with that show.
Yeah, definitely. So our heart really is to reach those kids who feel alone, who feel different. Yeah. Because so many of us are different, you know, and I mean, really truthfully, God made each and every one of us different, but some people are more obviously different, you know, and so our hearts are really to reach those kids who are outcasts, because that is the heart of Jesus, and he was in with the outcasts, and let them know that, hey, it's okay if God made you a little quirky, you know, we're not supposed to be like everybody else. He made us unique and with our own set of fingerprints. So we really wanted to be that friend to that kid out there who might be watching and who feels alone, and let them know, hey, God made you on purpose with a plan and purpose.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. I've watched some of your stuff, and it's great. It's really fun. What are some of the things that you guys use as inspiration to keep the show fresh, Cheryl?
Well, I would say some of the things that we research a lot. Yeah. So there's a lot of kids content out there. Yeah. So we've looked up Mr. Rogers, Blippi, VeggieTales. Was it Cocomelon? I don't know. There's just so many. There's so many. We just started looking them up, but also with the fact that we are educational, but we're also faith-based. So we want to give good, wholesome content to families and let them know that when they leave their children to watch YouTube, there's not going to be anything that's going to be a negative effect on them and shoving an agenda down their throat, just giving them good content.
I think that's important, even from Christian programming, for people to understand, because people tend to think that religious content is going to have an agenda to really try to push that as well. And just to truly help people live their best life, to show kids they're loved, and you may be kind of unique and different, and yet, you know, it's okay. You know, God made you that way. Now, getting this show off the ground, I'm sure was just a cinch, wasn't it? It was easy. It was like, hey, let's do a show.
Sure.
And you did a show.
Yeah, like a piece of cake.
Now, what did you have to go through to get it off the ground?
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. You know,
more tears.
Yeah, we're still pushing a lot, and it's a lot of work. You know, as you know, if you're gonna be, I feel like if you want to do something that's significant impact, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot, and you're gonna have to believe in what God has called you to do, even when no one else believes it. Yeah. So it's definitely been a struggle. However, there's been a lot of blessings and behind all that.
What was the toughest thing about starting out?
Oh, I think it was just the how to, like,
because you guys hadn't done anything like this before.
Never done anything like it before. The biggest struggle, well, we've started building our own home studio. We had many long nights up until 3 a.m. We were shooting the next day at 7 a.m. So that was a rough night. But I think that's probably been one of the hardest things is getting our home studio, because we've built the soundboards and all that.
Yeah, I want to touch on the soundboards.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're doing a studio, you have to have sound to catch like soundboards or the foams that are on the wall. So we bought the foam and we got the 3M stickers and we got it all set up and it worked. And in the middle of filming, they started slowly one by one the square fall. I was like, no.
Yeah, the ones that we had bought online did that.
Yeah, and they were like good reviews. I'm like, this is not good. I don't write a review to Amazon. So then we asked our friend John. He said, oh, you know what, you should just build your own sound panels. They won't be that much. We're like, okay. So I watched a YouTube video and the guy's like, you could build them for $25 and it's really quick.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
That was not $25 and was not really quick.
It was, yeah.
It took us a whole week.
Yeah, I did. But it was worth it. It's sounding better and stuff. So that's probably been like doing it ourselves. I say it's probably been one of the hardest things is just kind of getting everything that, because, you know, we write the show, we act in the show, we create all the props, all the characters, and then we edit the show along with our producer, Christian Eulens. And so just really doing everything ourselves has been, like, wearing so many multiple hats has been a challenge for sure.
Nedy's the director, and she has a photography degree, so she can see things behind the camera and be like, put your arm there, put your arm here, smile more, like stand like this, let's use this prop. And I'm over here just like, okay, good. And it's funny because then she's like, stay right there. And then she has to jump in front of the camera, and then Christian goes, action. And it's like she's having to act and then come back and look and help. And it's just really cool because she has this eye that is so unique. That's one of her strengths, is like she can see things from a different perspective.
Yeah. I love this because, I mean, what you're having to do is roll up your sleeves and do it all.
Right.
Most people don't understand. They'll see me on TV. They'll see me doing this podcast. And they'll be like, hey, it must be nice having a bunch of people, you know, that are taking care of all that for you. But they don't understand where all of us start.
Yes.
I mean, I've had to roll up my sleeve and do all of that. I've had to run back behind the camera, start it, run back around, try to get my breath back, you know, and then edit that out afterwards, just because, you know, to start out, you know, you have an opportunity if you make it.
Yeah.
And you only make it if you roll up your sleeves and actually, you know, we'll go do everything that you can do. The cool thing about YouTube now is not only it allows you to have a space for you guys to actually distribute your content and other people can watch it right away, but it also is a wealth of resources where other people who know how to do the things you don't know how to do, you can see, well, how do I edit this? How do I get better lighting? How can I build better props and do soundproofing and stuff like that? So it is really cool what we have available in the media today.
It is. It's a lot of trial and error for sure. And, you know, you do things a certain way and you spend many hours doing it. And then you realize, oh, well, we actually could have done it this way and it would have taken half the time. But that's just part of the process. It's the learning curve. That can be fun, but you know, it's a journey, you know.
It is a journey for sure. And I think what's something that's really crazy is that when you think about all the things that you have to do to get the show on the road, a lot of people do get scared because there's so many obstacles. You can get overwhelmed with, well, we have to do this, we have to do that. What do we do? How are we going to do this? And then a lot of people get so scared that they're like, it's not worth it. But you got, if you can push through, it's worth it, because that's the part, is having that faith over the fear and having that determination, that motivation, that drive, because drive doesn't go away. You know, sometimes you get motivated to go work out for a couple of weeks and you're like, all right, I want to eat pizza now. But drive is like, you know, because you know that God called you to do it. You know, being truthfully honest, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I love being behind the camera. I love all the editing and the technical stuff and the audio. And God's like, no, you're going to be in front of the camera. And I'm like, really? Do I really have to act for children? And then he's like, yes. He made that very clear to me that I'm supposed to help Nedy and help Friends Forever Club and do this because that's the calling they put on my life. But here I am. And I can tell you at home, if you can push through, it is faith over fear every time and turn your struggles and worries over to the Lord, because He will help you through it.
I want to unpack that more here in a minute, but I want to go back to one of the first things that you were saying, but I definitely want to talk about how you recognize your calling, because, you know, I'm working with a lot of people who that's their number one question is, how do you know your life purpose, your calling? How do you discover that? So I want to talk about that in a few moments, but you did talk about, you know, overcoming your fear of just starting. And I know personally, from my own experience and from the experience of people that I work with, one of the greatest enemies to your highest level of success is excuses. And you're going to have excuses. You guys have every excuse. We talked, when was it that we saw each other? Was it May? May?
Yeah, it was May.
Last May. And then the year before that. And you talked about all the hurdles that you guys are trying to overcome, and you're there talking with executives and broadcasting and stuff, trying to get a break, trying to get, you know, people to see what you're doing as well. And most people wouldn't do that. I mean, was it in Orlando, the last convention?
Orlando.
Okay. So in Orlando, you guys don't live in Orlando. And so the deal is, well, how do you have enough money to get to Orlando? How do you have enough money to stay in Orlando? How do you have enough money to, you know, get into the convention? And yet you guys looked at it and said, there's no excuses. We're going to do it.
Right.
And I think with a lot of people, they're like, well, I can do it, but it won't be as good as someone else's production, or it may flop, and people may look at it and say, this is stupid what you're doing. Or they may look at it and say, you know, what a waste of time, or, you know, in our head, we translate that as people saying in their minds, oh, I'm embarrassed for you. I don't know why you're trying to do this. And we see them in our minds cringing. What we don't realize is that that's not really going on, because people are so self-centered. They don't think about us. They're not thinking about us at all. They could care less. And when they see us doing something, they're like, oh, that's cute. That's cool.
Right.
They may not be overwhelmed with, wow, that's amazing what you're doing.
Right.
But they're not negative like we tend to think they are. And if they are, we don't care.
Right.
Because, you know, I have a saying, you need to take the criticism as seriously as you take the compliments.
That's good.
And you don't take either of them seriously, because it'll sway you from the course that you're on. Just take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
But the number one thing that I work with people that I see that you're doing exceptionally well, I would not have to work with you on this, is getting rid of every excuse. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough time. I'm tired is the biggest one, but I'm exhausted when I get home. How am I supposed to work on this and work at my job that actually pays the rent, pays the bills, and puts food on the table? Everyone has excuses that can seem valid, but quite frankly, they're not. You're never too tired. You're never too poor. You're never too anything to do what you were made to do.
Yep.
And so, you know, for me, I have a whole house full of no excuses. My wife and I, before we even got married, we agreed there will never be an excuse in our house.
That's really good.
It's never I'm too tired or too busy to anything. We choose to do and we choose to not do. So even 2 nights ago, really tired. I'm working on I got 2 TV shows and the podcast and a bunch of other resources that I'm working on, doing life coaching. And I had just finished a huge project. And it's Monday night. I'm exhausted. I sit down on the couch, and my wife could tell. She goes, "You're wiped." I go, "Yeah, I'm exhausted." And she goes, "So are we still going to do our walk tonight?" I said, "Absolutely."
That's awesome.
No excuses.
Discipline.
And so got the shoes on. I did not want to go, but I have to walk. I have to be healthy. I can't help other people learn how to live their most healthy life and not be healthy myself. And so you can't have excuses. And so that's what I see in what you guys are doing, that I'm so impressed. And I want people to meet you, because where you are in your stage of development is the perfect place for people to look and say, if you guys don't have an excuse, I don't have any excuse either.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the things that could have been an excuse to you that you looked at and you said, I can't do the show because I don't have XYZ? What are some of the things that were kind of roadblocks for you?
I feel like pretty much everything that you mentioned: time, money, energy. You definitely, it's easier to make excuses, I think, than it is to actually do something.
And to make a show.
But the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. The more you get in the routine of things. I think probably the number one thing is money, you know. All those things are definitely have been obstacles that we have to continuously overcome. But money's been the biggest thing. You know, how do we need to do this, we need to do that, the show needs to get better. Oh, well, that takes money. So just really like trying to raise funds has been one of the things that we've done to overcome that. And just taking it all to the Lord. You have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Am I doing it for me? Am I doing it because I feel called to do it? And that drive has to be bigger and stronger than anything else, because it's going to be easier to give up. But I wouldn't honestly rather be doing anything else than everything that we're doing.
And
that's true.
I would also piggyback off that and say probably knowledge as well, because you could have all the money in the world and then you have to hire somebody. But then you're not like that person could run off and do something. You know, if you have knowledge, you can create anything. Like that's why we are always learning. Something that I think was a roadblock for me was, I'm not going to give details, but my brain's really detailed anyway, so I'm like a timeline, but I'll try to condense it. So we were mentioned in September of 2021, like, oh, you guys should be on TV. And we're like, oh, okay. And someone saw us speak at one of our friends' Fiber Club events. And then we were like, okay, cool. And then that kind of rolled over in 2022. And then there was, well, how do we create a TV show? And there wasn't a lot of guidance. So we were like, well, this would be a fun segment. And this would be a fun segment, just trying to figure out the pieces to make a show. But then when we got to the studio, it was complete opposite. They're like, you're going to do a 28:30 live to tape, which basically means we turn the camera on and you're basically going to be filmed for 28 minutes and 30 seconds.
Clubs and all.
And don't mess up. And we're like, wait, what? And so we had to rechange everything we had written. And then there were some hiccups in the fall, and it came down to me and Nedy just had a discerning spirit. If what we had planned with this group of people were to flop, are we still going to do the TV show? And I prayed about it separately, and she had prayed about it separately. And then we came out as ministry partners, and she was like, I still feel called to the TV show if we don't work with this group. I was like, I do too. And then lo and behold, about a week after we had that conversation, that group of people decided to pull out. And then we were like, we're going to still do it. So we came up with a solution, and it was either a solution or an excuse, which was really kind of hard for me, because with working with them, I was working full-time with a company, part-time with the second company, doing the TV show when I could, had no social life and wasn't sleeping and trying to eat healthy, you know. And I was really stressed out. They were asking a lot for the TV show to get up. And I said, honestly, I'm working 60 plus hours with just my day job. How am I going to be able to do the TV show? And one of them said, you can make solutions or you can make excuses. And I have been praying for about a month now, well, maybe 3 months, about quitting my job. And then I went home that day because I felt like that was the Holy Spirit saying, I need you to quit your job. So I ended up quitting my job on a whim that day. And it scared the mess out of me because I was like, oh my goodness, that's my income. But it's okay because I felt God had me, I got you. So that was my hardest struggle, was letting go of the financial stability that I had to rely on the Lord, because he's like, I called you to do this. So anyway, sorry, long-winded answer.
No, but it's such a common story. Every successful person, you see the documentaries on TV of these celebrities who really had to make that decisive moment. Am I all in or not? The people that I interview on Lifestyle, the television show, these people have to decide one day, I'm all in or I'm all out.
Right.
And it really does come down to it. And it really is probably one of the scariest decisions you can make, because what you're seeing with your conscious mind is, if I give up the known, I'm only stepping into the unknown. And the unknown it may be poverty, it may be homelessness, it may be, you know, and it really is a scary step to step into that. I think it's interesting, your story, because both of you are people of faith, and it just talking with you, I always hear your reasoning is based upon a spiritual nudge. You feel like you have a purpose and a calling. And like I promised before, I want to come back to this. Most people that I work with really have no clue. I've talked to some people who are celebrities, and they look like a deer in the headlights when I say, so what's your life purpose? What's your life calling? And they're like, to make the world a better place. I'm like, awesome. I'm glad you're thinking that way, because that's literally what every life is made to do. That is your divine calling, to make the world a better place. So how? And they're like, I don't know. How do you discover that? Because many of them have quite a bit of money. They have the means, they have the influence to make a difference. They just don't know how. And ultimately, what people don't understand is, if you do allow yourself to connect spiritually, and many of the people watching this podcast now are like, oh, great. Now they're getting into the ooga booga of the spiritual stuff. But just hang on. I want you guys to understand that regardless of how you've heard about the divine, if what you've heard about the divine leaves you feeling negative or, no, I don't want to be part of that, let me just clearly tell you, it's okay. Because if you've heard of God in a way that's easy to discredit or walk away from, it really was not a true representation of who God is. And unfortunately, we have a lot of different religions, a lot of different, even Christian denominations, and they each represent God in a certain way. If you can walk away from any of them, it's because the picture that was painted was not the true picture of who God is. Because God is love. He's beyond what we can define or express as love here on earth. And so that loving being who created you gave you a divine purpose. And so what I help celebrities work with, what I help everyday people work with, is understanding, so how do I connect with the divine so he can connect me with my calling? And ultimately, the number one thing that I ask my clients is, can you stop thinking about it?
Right.
Because the moment you can stop thinking about whatever it is to help someone else. And one thing people don't understand is everyone's life purpose is to help other people understand what love feels like. Genuine, non-transactional love. And so there are different people groups. Some people are called to work with this group of people, and maybe they're homeless. They work with this group of people. Maybe they're rich. They work with this other group of people. Maybe they're kids. What has God made you so passionate to help these people be cared for? And truly you have, the entire purpose of your life is to help that group of people truly feel cared for in a non-transactional way. And what I mean by non-transactional is I'm not expecting anything back. In fact, I wouldn't accept anything back because this is my life calling. This is my purpose. And so in helping them understand it, I tell them, what is it that you have all these excuses to not do because it's too big. Every one of us has a purpose that's bigger than us. Otherwise, you wouldn't need the divine to give you the divine purpose. And so it's always bigger than what you can accomplish. But if it's something you can put aside, put in a shelf, put in a drawer, and not think of anymore, it's not your purpose. But there's these things that God keeps nagging at you and saying, but what about? But why? And you're passionate about it. But you just can't see, how in the world am I ever supposed to do it? That's your life purpose right there. And you're nodding and saying, as if like, this is my experience. This is how it is. Because that's what you felt. You've had all these excuses, all these reasons to not do it, but you feel a calling. Now, for you, it's kids and it's bullying especially. Why are you so passionate about that?
I think because we can relate to it, and that's funny that you bring that up, because that was one of the things that I wanted to let you know, that ever since you shared that with me in Orlando, that if you can't stop thinking about it, that's when, because you had said to me, like, a lot of times people ask me, like, how do I know when to throw in the towel, Roy? And you said, well, when you can't stop thinking about it. And that's stuff. Right.
I forgot we had that conversation.
We did.
We had a little life coaching live with you there.
And I've been thinking about that ever since. And it was really helpful, because I was like, that makes sense. I can't stop thinking about it. And I can't stop thinking about how I want to impact the world, reach the children with that message of purpose, hope, and value found in entertainment. And that's something that's been more and more spoken to me about, is to influence the culture through media, through entertainment, through music, through writing songs, through the anti-bullying that you mentioned, and that I'm passionate about, that we're both passionate about, is just really finding that so many of us feel alone, even if we're not being bullied or if we've never been bullied, and wanting to bring that hope that we all need. And for me, I believe that true hope is found in Jesus Christ and a relationship with him, and letting people know that, hey, this hope is available for you too. Even if you feel hopeless, there is always hope. And being able to relate to bullying and getting picked on for being different, and recognizing, hey, we're supposed to, wait a minute, we're supposed to be different. That's a good thing. Society tells you, kids at school may tell you, you're weird, you're different, your ears are big, or your your nose is small, or you wear glasses, well, that's okay. I don't have to be who you say I should be. And like you were saying earlier, Roy, like you can't take people's compliments or their criticism too seriously. Then that's really what we talk about. What it comes down to is, you cannot find, no matter what you believe in, we were not created, I believe, to find our identity and what people say about us, for better or for worse, because that's always changing, and that's so fickle. We were created to find our identity in our Creator. And when you realize that nothing or no one can ever give you your value or take it away, it brings freedom and power. And that's genuinely the message that I feel called and stirred up to give people. And I think, with the music and the kids series that we're working on, that we've been pushing out, I think that is what kind of it looks like for me.
I would say for me, it started with Nedy called me in April of 2021 and was like, hey, I want to start this anti-bullying nonprofit called Friends Forever Club. Do you want to be on the board? And I was like, yeah, like, of course. And so I jumped on the board, and it was kind of like, it was cool because I was doing ministry with my best friend. I've always had a passion for mentoring like teenagers. I love, like, I feel really called to like the teens, I don't know, ages like 12 to like 15, 16, 17, because I was a wild teen.
Were you? I
was the kid that was like stuck out of the house, did the bad things when mom said don't do that. I was like, I'm gonna do it anyways. Don't do that. Learn from me. So when Nedy asked me to be on the board and we're gonna do children's ministry, my mindset was like, okay, you take the little kids, because I'm a little on the edge, I'm a little rough around the edges. Nedy, you do the little kids, and I'll take the hard teens, the ones who are like impress me. And then as we started doing more ministry together, the Lord started softening my heart towards these little kids, and I started to understand their innocence and how the world is so influential to them. And if they're going to influence the kids, then in a negative way, we can also help control and influence them in a positive way. And so that's when my heart for the children started to grow. And I'm also very protective. I have a very protective instinct with my family and my friends. And so when I started seeing all the negatives come after our kids, I went straight mama bear mode. I was like, okay, you gonna mess with my children? Jesus' children? Okay. And then, so I think my passion is, as much as I love these children, I also am very protective of their hearts. I'm protective of their eyes and their ears. Because like that verse in the Bible, it says, if you were to harm, it would be better for you to put a millstone around your neck and be thrown into the ocean than for you to harm one of these little ones. And that verse is like, okay,
super powerful.
So that's Nedy is probably more as wanting to love them and protect, like, love the outcast, which I do love them, but I think I come more of a place of protectiveness, if that makes sense.
I love that. Speaking of outcast, in the Christian construct of who is God, in the New Testament, we have these really interesting stories right at the beginning of the story of Jesus Christ, where an announcement is made to the baby shower for Jesus. And it is interesting. The only two groups of people who are invited to the baby shower are outcasts.
Mm.
The shepherds were not allowed in the temple. They were considered unclean. In fact, we have historical records that show that if a crime was committed and the only witness that you have is a shepherd, you had no witness, because they were not even allowed to testify in a court of law.
Wow, I didn't know
that. The saying around town was, if something went missing on your property, the saying was, well, a shepherd took it. And so they were definitely profiled as the lowest of the low, the most dishonest, untrustworthy. They couldn't go to church because, according to the Jewish law, if you were in contact with blood, you couldn't go to the temple for 7 days. Well, helping these sheep, give birth, stuff like that. And beyond that, just their social status, they were barred from going to church. And yet they were the only people in the area that were invited to come see the Christ child. The second group is a group of Zoroastrian astrologers, probably up near Babylon area, that came to see Christ. Non-Jews. They were not part of the chosen people of God. Those are the only two groups of people that were invited to come see God with us. And I look at that as a person of faith myself, and I say, if God has that special place in his heart for the outcast, he didn't make an announcement, as far as we know, he didn't make an announcement to the church leadership.
Right.
He only made announcements outside of the church. And so if that's how the character of God is represented in the beginning of what your faith is, Christianity, I think it really redefines for all of us who God is and what God really wants, and why he probably has placed on your heart such a desire to work with the outcast, because it seems like that's the people that God wants to work with as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. Thank you for saying that. I didn't even realize that, but that's such a great point. Yeah. I think it's also like really common especially in the Christian community. Like, if you don't look a certain way, you have to be cookie cutter, then you're not a Christian, you're not Christian enough. Oh, yeah. And we're really, it's like, well, what defines what a Christian looks like, because we don't look like Christians, and so no matter where you come from, people, we try to label each other, box each other in, and just being like, hey, you don't have to look a certain way, just feel comfortable in your skin and express yourself. We're artists naturally, so we want to express ourselves with color and whatever. Cheryl has more, we have a few tattoos. Cheryl has more than a few. But not really. I feel like we can be an outcast in the Christian community because we look different, but we can also be an outcast in the secular world because we're talking about Jesus still. But that is the heart of God, and that is who Jesus ministered to a lot of times. He spoke to the woman at the well who was living with a man who wasn't her husband, but he met her where she was at. And he spoke to her, back in that time, from what I understand, you didn't speak to a woman in public. So he really met people where they were, and the outcasts. And our name of our show is the slogan for our anti-bullying nonprofit, for Friends Forever Club. And I was sitting down in 2018 and I was like reflecting about how people that I knew, like at my workplace and stuff, and growing up as a kid in school, I didn't really fit in. And I was like, it's okay if I don't fit in. Like I was made to stand out. And I wrote, I'm only in with the outcast. That's cool. I'm about that. And later on, God showed me, like, that's what you're supposed to do, is you're supposed to let other kids know, hey, it's cool. Like, we can be outcasts together. You're a wallflower. Well, guess what? So am I. And we can do that together and create our own group. And that's cool. We don't need to be accepted, because we are already accepted by God, through Jesus Christ. We're already seen as blameless in his sight. So, I don't know. I just thought that.
I think it's important for especially the creatives who are watching the show right now, in helping them understand it took a lot of pain for you to get to your purpose. You know, I tell people pain doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. You wouldn't be empathetic, you wouldn't have the drive that you have, you wouldn't have the passion that you have to serve a specific group of people had you not gone through the pain. And so that's the challenge, especially with parenting today, where they're trying to alleviate as much pain as possible from your kid's life. The pain actually is the fuel for your purpose. It actually will drive you decades later to reach out to a group of people that you can empathize with. You no longer sympathize with them. You empathize because you feel the pain. You felt the pain. But people don't understand that. They say, why, God, is this pain happening to me? And they don't understand it's happening for you. Because unless you experience it, chances are you're not going to be positioned or credible enough to actually serve the group of people that God has made you to serve. And so I think it's important for everyone to understand, especially the creatives who are saying, I could have been so far, much farther along in my career and what I'm supposed to do had I not had to go through the pain. And as awful as the pain is, you know, God does make beauty from ashes. He does change the experience that he did not bring it into your life. And I want people to understand that as well. God never brings bad things into your life. But he can take the bad things and say, let me help you use that as fuel so you can protect other people so that they don't have to go through the same experience, because it hurts God to see that happen. But you also talk about identity. And I think that's probably one of the biggest, most common used phrases now. I'm working with several people right now who are struggling with identity, and whether that identity is based on your purpose or who you are, what you're made to do, or with many people today, it's sexuality. And we talk about gender identity. I work with several people in the trans community right now who we have very loving, open conversations. They come to me because they know I love them dearly. I think they're the most beautiful people. What they don't know and what's really driving them to be confused about identity is they don't know how loved they are. And so many of us, whether it's the gender identity or whether it's identity of, am I financially successful? Am I relationally successful? Am I physically successful? And all these different ways that the people of the world look at us and we think they're identifying us by this rubric, by this is who we think that this person is. This is their identity. What we don't understand is the reason why people are so passionate and drive themselves to become obsessed, to become financially successful, and that's their identity, or relationally, look who I have as arm candy, or all that, or even to the level of gender identity. At its core, all of it is looking for acceptance. Everyone wants to be accepted. And that's where, you know, people of faith should truly embody the understanding of, are we truly showing people love and acceptance? We're not called to judge. We're called to love. And this is the determining factor. Jesus himself said, everyone will recognize you as my disciples if you love. Not if you correct, not if you make sure everyone is a cookie cutter, not if you make sure that everyone is within the proper doctrine. It's if you love. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, is because that's what you were doing. You're trying to let these kids know. Many of these kids are latchkey kids. Both their parents are working. They're home alone, or they're going through a really rough experience because the kids at school are saying mean things because they're also trying to build up their own identity. The kids that give the most criticism and the most put downs are the kids that have the toughest time with their own self-image. And that's their way of trying to make up for that and build up for it. But talk to me about what you guys are currently doing, what some of your dreams are, what you really hope to accomplish in the near future.
Can I touch on something real quick?
Please.
So something that I wanted to touch on was, we said something about like the shepherds were not allowed in. I thought that was really cool because Jesus is called the Good Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he was also an outcast. Like when he would preach in the...
He called himself that, which was revolutionary, because we read through it and like, oh yeah, you know, it's,
right.
But when he said it, it would be like saying, I'm the good thug. So it was an oxymoron of sorts, where there was no such thing as a good shepherd.
Wow.
You know, every shepherd was a bad shepherd. And so by Jesus taking that moniker onto himself, he says, regardless of what the world says, I can rewrite what identity really means.
Yeah.
And even though you look at shepherds and see them as bad, I am the good shepherd. That's the reason why people remembered it and wrote it down, is because it was so bizarre.
Right.
Most people don't understand, and I'm a wordsmith. And so what they don't understand is that out of the words of Christ in the New Testament, the guys that are experts in Greek say that at least 70% and as much as 82% of the words of Jesus Christ were humorous in some way. And this is one of the experiences of that, is that when he said it, people chuckled.
Wow.
Yeah, that's funny. That's weird. Yeah, I could be a good shepherd.
Oh, he does have a sense of humor.
He does. I love that.
And then when you were talking about like fuel for the purpose and the pain and stuff, Nedy has a song called Fuel. Check it out. It's kind of based around Romans 8:28, you know, taking Nedy, tell them the verse.
Oh, well, Romans 8:28 says, for he works all things together for our good, and using the pain, you know, the beauty from ashes that God gives us, and using it to fuel you to achieve your purpose, your dreams. And, you know, I think going back to your question, like, what are some of your guys' dreams and stuff?
Oh yeah, sorry, I segue. I have a mind like a squirrel.
You're good. Squirrel. Everyone can relate to that, right?
Yeah. And back to Nedy.
Yeah, so I would say, like, really, there's so many things, but then I want to make it really short or brief or whatnot, is letting the world know through music, through writing, through you know, our children's book series we're working on. My dream is to reach the world through music, through entertainment, and letting them know that, hey, you guys have a purpose, and that you were purposely thought about, and you're not an accident. And your identity is not in what you do, nor how good you are at it. Your identity is in whose you are. And we were created for something greater than ourselves. We were created for a creator, like I mentioned earlier, is my belief. And so that stirring in your heart, that hole in your heart that you have, that it's there's something more, that fulfillment that you're searching for. You can find that fulfillment in God and in Jesus. And he says, come as you are. So he takes you and he makes you a new creation. And our job as Christians, I believe, is not to fix people, but to let them know that, hey, come to Christ, and one, he will give you eternal life just as you are, and two, he will lead you and guide you in the way that he created you to live, and that way is found in the Bible. That's pretty much some of my answer.
I would say one of my dreams and passions is to help influence at least one person. I mean, at least. Obviously, I want to help influence the world and the kids and who God's put in my path. But if I could at least influence one person to make a better decision, to come to know the Lord, I mean, I can tell them my testimony, but it only comes down to the conviction and the wooing of the Holy Spirit talking to them. Like Nedy was saying, like, it's not our job to fix them. It's our job to introduce and help walk alongside them. I think a lot of people, they get saved, and then the people that help them get saved just kind of like deuce out. And you're like, hey, man, like,
discipleship.
Yeah, you walk alongside them. You say, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I understand your roadblocks you're going to go through. I understand the hills and the valleys. Yeah. There's going to be ups and downs. Yeah. But that's why we do life together. Yeah. Life groups and stuff. But so that'd be one of my passions. What's crazy, Nedy talked about her getting bullied, is that I also got bullied because I was such a social butterfly. Oh, I thought you were going to say you were the bully. I did turn into the bully. You were her bully. Sometimes we became best friends. No, we'll cut that out of the interview. No. And stop that, Nedy. Just kidding. Yeah. No. In high school and even in middle school, like, I was getting picked on because I was a jock. We had a really small school in Alabama, so everyone knew everybody. And so like I played sports, but then I would hang out with the nerdy kids and help them with homework, or they were more like they helped me, but I would still hang out with them. And then I played music on the side, so I would go hang out with the band geeks. And so I wouldn't always sit with the jocks at the table, and I would go sit with the nerdy kids. And then my jock people would say, well, why are you hanging out with them? They're nerds. And I would get picked on because I was such a social butterfly. And ended up by my senior year of high school, I had gotten picked on so much by school people, even at home. Like I got bullied a lot by my sisters, and it ended up like making me very hard-hearted. And then I became the bully. And it wasn't until like, I became such a bully that my heart was so hard that I started to walk around and talk about how much I hated people. And when I finally found the Lord, when Nedy said, come as you are, what was funny is that the night that I had a life-changing moment where I tried to commit suicide, it was June 7th, 2015. And God saved me from that car wreck. He saved me from my own self-destruction. Wow. And the very next day, I wasn't supposed to be with my family because I had already said my goodbyes. Apparently, I'd already texted everybody, see you later. But I was drunk that night. I don't remember what happened, except for I was an hour away. And I woke up the next morning in my bed, and I was home. I'm like, how the heck did I get home? And I remember my dad, he knocked on my door, and we had a fight about 2 days previously where I confessed to him that I was suicidal. He was asking me why I was always in my room alone, why I was always staying by myself. And those are some telltale signs when someone's going through stuff. So he gave me a hug, and he went to church. My mom and I had a falling out, so we haven't spoken for like 6 months. I hear a knock on the door, and my mom and dad divorced, by the way. I hear a knock on the door, and my mom was there. I was like, what are you doing here? Like very hard-hearted. She said, I don't know. God told me to come check on you. And so she gave me this hug. My mom's kind of like a side hug type mom, but this time she gave me this like huge embrace. And I was like, can I go to church with you? Because I felt so low. I had, my best friend betrayed me. My sister was deployed. There was just a lot of stuff going on internally that I'm not going to get into. And I remember going to church with her, and I sat between her and my granny at their church. And the song that played, because the Holy Spirit will talk to you in your way, you know. Mine was music, and the song that was ever played for the altar call was Come As You Are. And so that line, Come As You Are, kept playing in my head for about 2 weeks. Come as you are. And I would argue with the Lord. Oh, you don't want me, Lord. I'm an alcoholic. You don't want me, Lord. I sell drugs. You don't want me, Lord. I'm too crazy. And then he was like, come as you are. And I remember it was Father's Day. It was June 21st, 2015. I got down on my knees. I said, all right, Lord, I don't know what you want to do with me, but if you can change me from wanting to drive my car off a bridge every time I get in the car, like, please do something about it. And he did. And it was a slow change, and my desire started to change, and I started to love people again. I remember hating people because of all the pain that they put on me. And after the Lord came in my life and really understanding his character and learning to, what does it mean to love and be loved? I started to love people. And now I love people. I want to hug a stranger. And my mom's like, hey, you can't hug strangers. It's kind of weird. I'm like, but if they like it, it's fine, right? Just kidding. It's a Bubbles personal space.
But that's such a turnaround. I mean, it's an exact 180 from where you were. And this is where I hope people watching this or listening to this will understand. Yeah, there's a lot of people talking church and God and stuff like that. But you know it's real when your life gets better. When it changes your life around and changes you from being a person that's full of hurt to becoming a person that's full of love, even for the stranger, the people you don't know, and even for the people who treat you poorly. You still have love for them as well.
It's super powerful.
Thank you. That's all the Lord.
I think too, something that stood out is like, because I've heard that story many times before, and it's awesome, never gets old. But you know, when you were saying, Cheryl, like that you were at school and people said, oh, you're too social, or you only, you know, you're everywhere, whatever. Like the the thing that stood out to me is people have their opinions of who they think you should be.
Yeah.
You're too this, you're not enough that. And it never ends. The list never gets old, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've experienced this before, you know, being on TV all the time, Roy.
Every
people
time.
criticize you. Oh, you said, interesting you said this, Roy. I thought you should have said that. And they have their opinions of,
or they'll even have an opinion of how I said it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, oh, thank you so much, but I don't remember asking for your opinion with all due respect, you know.
With all due respect.
And
that's like a famous line. I'm gonna get that on a shirt for Nedy.
Yeah, I say something really like not insulting, but some truth, like firm truth, and then I kind of follow it up with all due respect, I don't remember asking for your opinion. But it comes down to people having their opinions of you, and it's like, you know what? As long as I'm pleasing my creator and I'm doing what I was called to do, and it doesn't really matter what you say. Is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I think the reality is everyone in our sphere of influence needs us to be something for them. And the challenge comes in when the thing that they need me to be for them, at times I can provide it and it's healthy and it's within my purpose.
Right.
But oftentimes what they need me to be for them, I cannot fulfill and also fulfill my life calling. And what I mean by that is some people need me to be there. Now, for some people, being there, that the active presence, it's priceless. And so there are certain individuals that when I make connection and say, hey, look, I have an hour. Do you have this hour? I want to come spend some time with you. And it's just amazing. We, communicate afterwards how incredible it was. A great memory, time together. We both grew in that situation.
Yeah.
But other people set up the time, and it's never enough. And it's like their whole identity is based on, well, did they spend?
Right.
Was that all the time that they had for me? And the ego, the narcissist in all of us, which is a scale. All of us are narcissists on some level of scale. But those that are unhealthy, the 8, 9, 10 level, you're offensive to them just because you didn't provide for them everything that they're desperate for. And so as I look at, just even our calling of, how do we truly make a difference to other people? I think that is one of the challenges, is that we realize in our heart of hearts, we are called to be something for everyone. But there are unhealthy people in our relationships that unfortunately the best that we can provide will never be enough and stuff like that. And so we just kind of have to navigate through that. I think one of the cool things with you working with kids, kids are still developing their subconscious. The subconscious is the operating system that everything runs on. It tells you whether you're valuable or not. It tells you what something means. When something external happens, your operating system, your subconscious, basically interprets that into, is this good, bad, or ugly? How do I respond to it? So I'm so excited that you're working with kids, because they're the ones, more than all of us, who there's hope for that you can actually help build their operating system for life.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Now, I know I already probably have several comments down below. Why does Cheryl have a boot? And I think this is the coolest thing. You guys, I saw pictures of you on social media. You were celebrating in front of a great big billboard. And I guess billboards are hazardous to your health.
Apparently.
What happens after a billboard is hazardous?
Right. Oh, man. Okay, so here's what happened. I don't wish this on anybody, not even my enemies. I don't have enemies because...
You love everybody.
I love everybody.
You're perfect.
Exactly. No, I'm kidding. So we had just got through taking our pictures and making content for our video release for our billboard. Yeah. And we were skipping along. We're kids' TV show, so we got to skip and have some fun. Yeah. And we were out. We were like, well, good, you got the shot. We're 10 feet from my car. And then our producer goes, oh, man, I didn't get a good angle. Can we do it one more time? Sure. And so we say, bye, friends. And we're skipping. Then I hear a pop. And I can't put weight on it, and I fall to the ground on the sidewalk downtown Nashville. And my character is kind of goofy, and so at first they thought I was just playing, and then I leaned up and I was like, Like my eyes were like showed that I had fear. And my Achilles tendon popped. And so 10 feet from the car, Nedy and our producer Christian picked me up, and my leg went like this, and pain went down my foot and up my calf. And then we went to the hospital.
Yeah.
X-rays, everything. And
yeah, what they didn't catch, what our producer didn't catch, you guys didn't see. You saw when it happened, which literally looked like nothing happened. It just looked like she fell.
Yeah.
But what you guys didn't see is the agony, the extreme agony. I say this with a smile on my face, but it wasn't funny in the moment at all. Okay. It's still not funny. I just have to smile. But what you guys didn't see is the agony that Cheryl was in. It was crazy.
Did you think at first she did it to play, or you knew she fell?
I knew. So I didn't see where she was because she had fallen behind me, but I knew when she was on the floor, I knew she wasn't just pretending or playing. Christian, he thought that Cheryl was playing because when I looked down at her and I looked back at him, he still had like a smile on his face.
And he was like bringing the camera towards me.
Us guys take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
to register.
But I was like, oh, no, she's not playing because I know her so well. Yeah. But, we have to be like really like, hey, what's your name? Wow, that's such a cool name. We have to be very animated and very energetic.
And I went,
but when she went down, I was like, oh no, something's not right. But what I didn't understand is what happened, like what was going on.
Yeah, so that's what happened. My Achilles tendon popped. We hobbled to the car. And then we went to the hospital, which was 2 minutes away.
Oh, that's good.
And they put me in an X-ray, and they put me in a boot, and they said, "Yeah,
the rest is history.
Your Achilles tendon popped." Yeah,
but that's what happened.
Well, I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad that you were 2 minutes from the hospital.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Be healing up. But I am so excited that we got to spend some time together. What's one of the best places for people to go, whether a website or your YouTube channel, for them to connect with your content?
So we have IWTOTV.com.
Which stands for In With the Outcasts. See, I'm quick.
Hey, that's awesome. And so that's for like our kids content. You can check my music out at officialnedy.com. Cool. Nedy is spelled with 4 letters, Nedy. And it's also like everywhere, like Spotify, Apple Music, listen to the music, and we have a bunch of content out there.
Awesome. We will put that information, those websites, on the description down below. So definitely check it out and make sure that you connect with what you're doing. I think what you're doing is amazing. It's inspiring to me. I know it's inspiring to a lot of creatives and a lot of kids. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so
awesome.
much. It has been so much fun.
You're great. It was fun for me too. And if you'd like more podcasts like this, or you'd like to watch some of our television shows like Lifestyle, or you are looking for some great blogs to help you learn how to live your best life, please go to our website, lifestyle.org. We hope to see you next time right here. Take care.